I don't know. I may differ. I've seen you.
Nice floral motif you have there today on your mask.
You like that?
I tell you, Russian home.
Stopping to store the flower.
Get it actor
Always.
taking the tail off. I'm doing. I tell you, running for mayor would be an easier job.
Good job.
Oh, board docs and a number.
One or two.
Seven.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 work session of the Richmond Community School Board of Trustees. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can have the reading of the mission and vision, please.
The vision statement is Richmond Community Schools, a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Mission statement of Richmond Community Schools. The Richmond Community Schools guides students on a pathway of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, celebrations. I believe Dr. Wright.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, trustees, I'm going to ask that our communications coordinator, Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, approach the podium, as this evening we will be celebrating our renowned spelling bee champions from our elementary school, Charlotte, here this
Good
evening.
evening. I have two very special guests and they brought some people with them, so we'll let them introduce those also. But I would like to introduce the Richmond Community School District Spelling Bee champions, Bradley Hoffman, and the runner-up is Preston Bennett. So you can bring them up here for a minute. We can talk a little bit. I told you they're not gonna bite it. All right, and then hopefully you bring the trophy. Thank you. So at Civic Hall, we had the district spelling bee. We were able to have parents attend that. And Mrs. Amix at Charles was in charge of that for us this year. So if you guys have any questions, could ask these two fine gentlemen. Okay. All right, well, Bradley, why don't you go first? Bradley, what grade are you in and what school do you attend?
Seen back there in the video.
Fourth grade and
Let me come up here.
And who was your teacher at Charles?
Hey guys, come on up here so the video can get you.
In the middle.
We're working with new video cameras. You're all right. Stand, see where the cord is? Go right past the cord. Keep coming.
See those big,
Like right over
Keep
here.
coming out.
little
Right,
scary
stand
things?
right in the middle.
See these things, they're gonna.
Right here. Right here where my.
Yeah, they're gonna
right there.
move all
Yeah,
around.
You guys stand right there and watch Wall-E here. He'll point at you. He'll swing all around. And there you go.
Wait, say hi to mom and dad.
All right. Sorry.
Okay. So Bradley, will you say again, first and last name, who your teacher is, what school you attend?
My name is Bradley Hoffman. I'm in fourth grade. I attend Charles Elementary.
Okay, and then Preston, tell us your first and last name.
My name is Preston Bennett. I attend DeVille Elementary.
And Bradley, who did you bring with you tonight?
My mom and my dad.
And what are their names?
Randy Hoffman and Jim Hoffman.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming. And Preston, who did you bring with you tonight?
My mom and dad.
And what are their names?
Robert Bennett and Stephanie Bennett.
Okay, good. And so, who can tell me, what were some of
Can
the
you spell
spelling words that you had in the spelling bee, in the competition? Do you remember what some of those hard words you guys had?
Admitting.
What was it?
Admitting.
Admitting?
Ooh.
That's a hard one. I heard ransacked too. I heard that one.
Ooh.
That's
At
what
the
I
end.
missed up.
Was that yours?
Got a second?
Way to jam it in there.
That's a fitting one to get ransacked on.
And then, let's see, I think each school, they were able to bring three finalists. And so how did that spelling bee go at your schools? What did you guys think about that? Were you more nervous at your school spelling bee, or were you more nervous at the district spelling bee?
Probably more nervous at the district.
Yeah. Because you're on the big stage. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Brent.
I can say that Mrs. Stoltz and I were the judges, and we were very nervous for you.
Yes.
The words were very hard. I was trembling, and I wasn't up there. What did you guys do to prepare for the spelling bee?
Practice.
You just practiced a lot of different words.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you both did fantastic. We were very impressed with your poise up there and your ability to spell. Very impressive.
So I have a question. Do you guys remember the very first thing that they had you spell?
No.
I bet you do. I thought this was really clever because they had every single one of you, first of all, spell your
Oh, yeah.
name.
Oh,
I thought that was a clever one.
nobody got knocked out on that one, did they? Good.
Yeah.
Mr. Bennett, which school do you go to? Okay, all right.
Got Vale and Charles, right?
Mhm.
Well done, guys. I'm impressed.
Very impressive.
So what's next for you, sir?
The state.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to state next.
Mhm.
When is that?
Like in March, I think.
Okay. Now, so do you have a whole new list of words that you're studying now? No? Same list?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Do you really have to know, like, do you ask the questions like country of origin on the words or anything? Or is that just the ESPN? Like, I can't wait to see you on ESPN.
And so I'm curious, Bradley and Preston, you all occasionally spend time with a dictionary? No?
I don't know what it is.
I was, that was gonna be my next question. And so is that what it is that you all use, the electronic devices and technology to work on your spelling?
Yeah.
Are there particular sites that you use more so than others?
Dictionary.com.
Dictionary.com?
There you go.
Okay. Wow, it's it's the nature of the beast now. Whereas when we were all growing up, it definitely was Merriam-Webster.
Remember libraries?
Oh,
Just kidding.
They still exist, don't they?
My nephew was a senior in college.
Any other questions?
Congratulations.
Yeah, well done, gentlemen. Good luck moving forward.
You all don't mind just turning around real fast so I can.
Oh, yeah, he wants to take a
Quick
picture.
photograph. Yes, I'm learning technology. I'm not as good as you two. Well, congratulations. Good luck to you at state. Continue to do what it is that you do. You're definitely making us all proud and definitely your families proud. And being a great speller and having intellect, that's what it's all about.
Here,
Go for
do
it.
this. Do this. Okay, come on, there you go. Come on, there it is. Yeah, bring it. Go all the way around. Got it. Yeah. That's good. I like it. This is a new format here. I like this. Well done. Good work, gentlemen. Good work. Way to represent.
All right.
He kind of moved out. He was fascinated. Just couldn't.
Thank you again for coming and for the parents for bringing them and representing Richmond Community Schools. It's very appreciated. Moving on to item 3, public commentary. Mrs. Claypool.
Sarah Reed. Actually, well, hello, my name is Sarah Reed. I drive a school bus for RCS. I've been doing that for 14 years, and I really like it. And I'm not prepared for this, but I heard that on the agenda today was a topic of discussing whether masks should be required at school any longer, and maybe that some comparisons might be being made from or between our school system and like surrounding school systems, and maybe because they're reporting less COVID numbers than we are here. And
I thought that I would get to hear some things and before I actually had to make a comment, but I wanted to make sure that it was being considered that of the public transportation system in regards to those two schools that I mentioned, like Seton and National Trail. I don't know if the numbers of privately transported students are being considered in the result of those numbers of their cases. So I just wanted to make sure that that the school board and the community was considering all of the points of interest. And so that's basically it.
Ms. Reed, if you don't mind sharing, because of what you stated, are you for or are you pro or con? Are you for or against such a decision being made?
You know, I would say that the kids are getting super tired of wearing a mask at school, and it can be very distracting, and I'm sure it can be very hard on teachers having to make children mind to wear their masks, because I know how difficult it is on the school bus. So I would not be opposed. I think I would still encourage my own children of RCS to wear their masks when they feel it is appropriate, when they can't maintain space or what things of that nature. But I also want to make sure that it's clear that it is a federal law to wear it on the school bus, and that I don't think can change, regardless of whether they are required at school is one thing, but on the school bus it's a different animal and necessity. Since August of this current school year, I have missed 25 days of pay because of 3 rounds of COVID. So I think it's important that it be considered that is a requirement for children on our buses. And I actually would almost propose that we talk about some sort of consequences for repeat offenders of that violation on board our buses.
Well, thank you, Ms. Reed, and I apologize, and
No
and
problem.
board, I do apologize for so much breaking rank and posing questions, because typically there's not necessarily a back and forth dialogue, but the only reason why I pose such a question, first and foremost, I appreciate you exercising civility and civics as this forum welcomes. And I also appreciate you being well informed and knowing your state statute. And you all correct me if I'm wrong, that was actually not a topic of discussion this evening. And we indeed are not making any decisions regarding our face mask procedures. Definitely on the bus, but also within our schoolhouses. Right now, things are as they have been. And so you need not worry with this evening's conversation, but that's definitely not something on our topic.
Yeah, after walking through the door and asking if I wanted to speak and looking at at that agenda, I was like, oh, this isn't on for tonight. But here I am, guys, and thanks for listening.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very much. All right. Let our guest exit quietly.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Taking notes, or let's ask Bradley how to spell consequences.
All right, moving on to item 4, consent items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I come before you to ask for approval of consent items 4.01, 4.02, and the addendum, as well as 4.03 as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Motion by Jeff Schleifer,
Second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? You want to comment, Nicole?
Oh, yes, I did want to comment. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, I just wanted to point out that one of our consent items is the extension of Dr. Wright's contract. So just wanting to point out to the public that we have been very excited about the work that you've been doing. So kudos, first and foremost. As a board, one of the things that we discussed at our retreat was just we're excited about the forward momentum and just everything that you've done to bring us to where we are. We are definitely under construction still, and yet we're excited to see, just how awesome things are going to be, even as soon as a year from now. So thank you. And one of our ways of saying thank you is to extend your contract. So yeah.
Mrs. Stolz, I definitely appreciate that. Trustees, I definitely appreciate you all's confidence in the leadership that we as a team here at the central office, as our building level leaders, our teacher leaders, stakeholders, and all the like. As you mentioned, we definitely have work still to do, and we're all excited to do that work. But I definitely appreciate the generosity, and I look forward to being here as long as you all will have me.
No, we're excited.
Yes, for the benefit of the public, so there's no misunderstanding.
Yes.
Voting on the consent items tonight will not be the action of the board in extending the contract. Rather, that will allow a public hearing to be advertised. It'll be held on February 23rd, and the public is indeed invited to comment on that. And by that time, then the proposed changes will be posted on the corporation's website, so everybody will see what is under consideration. So the actual decision would not come until at least a week after February 23rd.
Yeah.
I think we just wanted to put it out there so people knew, when they saw it on the item that what was coming.
Highlight that that's now in motion. Yeah.
I thank you all.
Thank you, Dr.
And
Wright.
thank you, John, for moving right on to the action items. Okay, here we go.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to action items. Item 5.1, request to advertise. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Jennifer O'Brien, come before us with action item 5.01, the request to advertise.
Tonight I bring to you the request for proposal for the Reading Academy, formerly third grade academy. So attached is the complete request for proposal for the Reading Academy this summer. I'm recommending that RCS advertise this RFP beginning February the 11th of 2022. Richmond Community Schools will receive requests for the proposals for the Reading Academy up to 11 a.m. prevailing local time, March 3rd, 2022, at the School Administration Building, 300 Hutchinson Parkway, Richmond, Indiana. Academy students will include exiting third graders who did not demonstrate grade level proficiency as measured by iRead 3 in 2022. Academy students may also include exiting second graders who do not demonstrate grade level reading proficiency. The number of second graders selected may depend on how many third graders need to pass iRead 3. All proposals must be submitted with a non-conclusive affidavit properly signed and executed and filed with Jennifer O'Brien, Assistant Superintendent of Richmond Community Schools at 300 Hutchinson Parkway, Richmond, Indiana. Facsimile delivered responses will not be accepted. All proposals must be made in compliance with the laws governing such matters, and the board reserves the right to reject any and all proposals or to accept the lowest responsible and responsive one, not necessarily the lowest bid. Detailed specifications and procedures may be picked up at the School Administration Building, again, 300 Hutchinson Parkway, Richmond, Indiana. Please note the name and change. Previously, the proposal indicated third grade Reading Academy and will now be the Reading Academy, serving second and third graders. At this time, I ask the board to approve the request to advertise the Reading Academy.
Thank you.
I move to approve 5.01, the request to advertise the RFP for the Reading Academy.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
Second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Jennifer, how long have we been offering the third grade reading academy / reading academy? It seems like it's been a while now.
Yes, at least,
I'm gonna say at least 7
at
years.
least, no, it's been longer.
It's been
than-
longer?
It's been at least longer than 10.
Okay,
I'd have to go back and look. Look for sure.
I think we started that in 08.
so maybe like 08.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
No,
Dr.
it
Doran
seems-
was one of the first
Mhm.
administrators.
I think it came about when back in 08 with or 07 with the dropout factory stigma, and as ways to increase the reading comprehension and things of that
Okay.
nature, that was started to.
Okay,
In my cobwebbed mind, I know that former board member Rick Ahouse and
Right.
Vic Josie
Vic Josie.
were instrumental, very instrumental in putting that together and raising the funds to do that. So
And they are still very active. I'm on the Every Child Can Read board,
Yeah.
and they are very active still in it.
yeah. No, it seems to be a great, great option for our kids to have that available. Thank you, Jennifer, for your work on this.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item 5.02, summer school.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. O'Brien come back before us with regard to item 5.02, summer school.
Okay, thank you. This evening, I'm asking the board to approve the 4-week summer school program beginning May 31st, 2022, and ending June 24th, 2022, for students in grades kindergarten through 12th as presented. So, and just a little bit about summer school for elementary, intermediate, and middle school students. The classes will be held from 9 to 1 with breakfast and lunch being served. Summer school will provide instruction that is standards-based, rigorous, and enjoyable to students in kindergarten through 7th grade. Teachers will develop course proposals and provide innovation similar to previous summer sessions. Field trips that match the topics and standards will be provided. Summer school classes at the high school have traditionally provided educational opportunities for students for a variety of reasons. Some use summer school to free up time in their regular academic schedules. Other students use summer school to help recover credits or retake credits to improve their overall grade point average. Our goal is to provide opportunities for students during this 4-week session that will allow up to 120 students to earn credits through online offerings and teacher-taught classes. Students making progress in their grade point classes will have the option for in-person and or virtual instruction. Physical education and band will all be in-person classes. So students may take up to 2 classes online. Online classes are offered either from 8 to noon or from noon to 4. Students are also offered physical education during the morning session and then band at arranged practice times. The fees associated with summer school will be the same as in previous years. There are no summer school fees for grades K to 7. The high school fees include $5 for band, $5 for PE, and $30 for online classes. It is my recommendation that the board approve the 4-week summer school program beginning May 31st, ending June 24th for students in kindergarten through 12th grade.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the summer school offerings.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz,
second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Hearing none- Oh, go
I
ahead.
just was gonna say, I appreciate, as someone who enjoys my summers off, I appreciate the willingness of the staff who jump in and are always willing to take that on and work through the small amount of time that they have on summer break to keep these kids moving and going.
Agreed. Any other questions or comments?
The only thing, other thing I would add is that typically the grad point classes are offered in the library and in the grad point lab across from the media center. But due to renovation at the high school, we will be running the grad point classes out of the career center. And then of course, Tiernan Center will be home to the PE classes.
Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. And 5.03, conflict of interest statements. Dr. Ray?
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Alicia Stewart come before us to present item 5.03.
Attached are conflict of interest statements that need to be filed every year. And I'm just asking that the board approve the statements as presented.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jeff Schleifer,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. On the 5.3, request to advertise bids for high school honors hall restroom renovations. Dr. Ray?
Yes, sir. President Weber, trustees, I asked for items 5.04 through 5.07 that our Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Karen Scout, come before us to present such items.
Good evening. Tonight in 4.0 or 5.04, we have before you a request for permission to advertise for the renovation of the Honors Hall restroom at Richmond High School. The advertisement would be in the Palladium Iden on Friday, February 11th and Friday, February 18th, with a bid opening held on Friday, March 18th at 3 p.m. here in the administration building. Tonight, it's my request that the board approve this notice to bidders for the RHS Honors Hall restroom renovation.
Thank you.
I make the motion that we approve action item 5.04.
Motion by Kristen Brunton,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Scott?
Okay, moving on to 5.05. We have two change orders for the RHS second and third floor classroom renovation. This is change order 21 and 22. The information is before you on board docs, and tonight it's my recommendation that we approve these change orders as they've been presented.
Thank you.
I move that we approve these change orders, action item 5.05.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz,
I'll second.
second by Jeff Schleifer. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Ms. Scout?
Okay, moving on to 5.06, we have before you the contract for HVAC services at Star in Fairview. This bid was awarded to Thor Construction at the previous board meeting. And tonight is the contract for services on this one. I will say that the note that is in board docs is incorrect, and we'll need to make a change on that. It is not for the RHS mechanical modernization project. It is for the HVAC upgrades at Star and Fairview, so we will get that corrected for the minutes, but it is incorrect right now in your system. So the actual document attached is correct. So it's my recommendation that we approve that as it has been presented.
All right, thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Schleifer,
I'll second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Scott?
Okay, item number 5.07 is the continuing disclosure services engagement letter with Baker Tilly. This is a necessary process in having bonds, and we have some financial duties that occur throughout each year. With the 2021 bonds, we had to update this engagement letter to include those services. So tonight, other than that, there is no change. There's no change to previous fees. It's just that this would require additional hours, so the total amount due will be updated based on that usage. So it's my recommendation that we approve the letter as it's been presented.
Thank you.
I move that we approve action item 5.07.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz,
Second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.08, on my way pre-K expansion. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that our Director of Student Achievement, Mrs. Don Salatini, come to the podium to present On My Way to Pre-K as presented.
Good evening. It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees approve Fairview Elementary School as an additional On My Way pre-K site for the 2022-2023 school year. Once approved, Fairview will begin the accreditation process. This includes becoming a license exempt provider, which is step 1, and then receiving accreditation from Pasta Quality as a level 3 site, step 2. As you know, On My Way Pre-K awards grants to 4-year-old students from low-income families so that they may have access to high-quality pre-K program for the year before they start kindergarten. Families who receive a grant may use the grant at any approved On My Way Pre-K program. We currently have 2 elementary schools, Star and Vale, that currently are eligible based on Pasta Quality Level 3 accreditation. Both sites offer full-day programming to students who qualify, which has allowed Richmond Community Schools to recuperate funds for preschool students who qualify and meet attendance requirements. This program does require a 5% match. And we have seen success at both Star and Vale with this full-day programming, and recently released was research. And so I'd like to share this with you. Purdue University study shows On My Way pre-K children outperform peers well into elementary school. So this was just recently released. The first study released today by FSSA, which is the Indiana Family and Social Services Administration, is a multi-year longitudinal study demonstrating that children who attend On My Way pre-K program have stronger school readiness, language, and literacy skills than their peers with similar family incomes who attend lower quality childcare or pre-kindergarten programs. On My Way Pre-K allows 4-year-old children of low-income families to attend high-quality early education programs for a year before entering kindergarten. This study was conducted by Purdue University researchers from the Center of Early Learning. The study revealed that the pattern of On My Way Pre-K children outperforming their peers continued through 3rd and 4th grades, as measured in standardized math and English language arts scores. Additionally, On My Way Pre-K children from the 2020-2021 school year matched up positively compared to national norms established for all pre-kindergarten children in the first annual Kindergarten Readiness Indicators Assessment conducted by the University of Chicago. So super excited to share that. That just came this past week on research that has been done by Purdue. So tonight, I'm asking that you approve Fairview as a 3rd site of On My Way Pre-K. You might be wondering why we chose Fairview or why we're recommending Fairview. And there are 2 reasons. One is we noticed that we were losing students to other full-day programs outside of Richmond Community Schools. And secondly, Fairview is a school improvement status school. And so we want to provide those early experiences for those children as younger learners.
Thank you.
I move that we approve action
I'll second.
item 5.08.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz, second by Jeff Sliper. Any questions or comments?
I am very excited to see that we're already growing our On My Way pre-K offerings, and I want to applaud the efforts of Ms. Sonsini, and I'm confident that she, as well as Mrs. Service, who's here with us tonight, will be up to the task of navigating this whole accreditation process, and I'll be eager to hear all about it.
Absolutely. And you kind of open the door. If you don't mind, I'd like to introduce, this takes a team. As you know, there is no way that we can move through this accreditation process with one person. And so as we learned from Star and Vale, the team of us getting together and going through binders, we actually were just together for the last hour and a half, kind of prepping and looking what Star and Vale had done for me, remembering all of the necessary steps. Drug screening, TB testing, right, Sydney? So I'd like to take a moment, if it's okay, to have Mrs. Jennifer Service, principal of Fairview Elementary School, to also come up, and our preschool instructor, Sydney Allen. Sydney, come on up. Sydney Allen has been with us 5 years as a preschool instructor, and she's demonstrated resiliency this year and much increased confidence. She was at Westview for the past few years, had a teacher partner. We actually, if you remember, had 2 sites at Westview. We made a change this year with the retirement and moved Sydney from Westview to Fairview. So she has done a phenomenal job kind of by herself in that building, some transition with Paris, correct? But she is willing to do the work. And so we come to you tonight asking for that 3rd site, but just know we are going to push this. We'd like to get it done before preschool roundup. I'm not sure if that is a reasonable goal, but we sure are pushing for that because we want to try to get communication to families as accurate as we can. So,
and Dawn, remind us, preschool roundups, April
14th.
14th. Okay.
So we're thinking a license exempt visit the beginning of March.
Okay.
And then past equality either before spring break or right after spring break.
Awesome.
So that's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So.
You guys going back to the meet after this as well?
I think that Mrs. Stevenson and Mrs. Cameron are going to become Mrs. Service's best friends and have the
heck
binder
yeah.
sharing and so forth.
I'm sure they've got lots of good things to say. Hey, this worked or this didn't. Do this. Yeah, I think it's exciting and a great opportunity for more of our kids to get a jump start. Is that something that we're paying attention to now that we're starting? Like you mentioned the research. Are we kind of seeing how folks are doing that have gone through it and being able to?
Yes, we're actually in the process of cleaning up. ESGI is the platform that we implemented this year to look at data. And so there's some cleanup that needs to be done, duplicate names and things. It's not rostered through Clever. And so we're working on all of that data. I did share some preliminary data with you at a previous board meeting, but I will be sharing additional data with you, whether it be in a board update or at a future board meeting. And I'm sure you will be able to see the gains in some of this kindergarten or preschool readiness indicators. And Sydney, I mean, can you kind of share just some of those indicators so they have an idea? You use that tool regularly, but you look at letters or sounds. What kind of assessments are you giving on that?
So some of the assessments we do in preschool with ESBI is we do recognition of uppercase and lowercase letters. It's an option to do letter sounds as a test if we feel that some of them are ready for it. We can assess that skill. A couple of the skills are how high they can count. And they count up to 20 is one of them. Being able to identify shape. Patterning is one. One of them is writing to 10. If they're able to do that stage, if they can write to 10.
And if you think about the difference between the data at Fairview from fall to winter this year versus Star or Vale, I think you'll be able to see the impact of a full day programming. One thing that Mrs. Cameron said at Star is when different people, whether behavior specialist, special ed teacher, when they were going into the classrooms, they saw great gains in even the behavioral piece of knowing what school is all about. And so I think sometimes we underestimate that, but when you know what being ready to learn looks like, then some of these other skills come more easily. So they definitely have seen the teachers, kindergarten teachers, have even seen how, or have been impressed with the data that their preschool teachers are sharing at Star. So, it's a lot of work ahead of us, but I just wanted you to know that we all three are committed to this project, and any support and cheerleading for these two ladies. They'll be the ones there during the visits and nervous feeling and all of that, but they definitely need to be celebrated because it's going to be a lot of work, but we'll be excited to report back once it's all completed.
We definitely commend you all in this service for the courage to welcome the program. And I tell you, I salute you with both hands. And if I had more, I would. I had the privilege of reading the book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, to our preschoolers there at Vail earlier this year. And the energy that occurs in that preschool environment, and a lot of moving parts. So we definitely appreciate the commitment and the selfless service that you provide those youngsters, and most importantly, the compassion and love that you bring to the table every day. And so have fun, good luck, and we're definitely behind you.
The Lions.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work and coming this evening.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. On to policy review and update. Item 6.01, policy 4421, weighted grades. I guess I will add there's, after further investigation, I don't think there is any required change due at this time. So I entertain a motion to approve that policy.
Come on, Aaron.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I got that one.
Okay, motion by Nicole Stoltz,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead.
Just to clarify, we're all good. We didn't have a long discussion about the weighted grades, correct?
That, I don't believe so.
Yes. Yeah. So we're going to continue with the policy as it is, and we're all good with that. Yep.
So, all right. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. On to item 6.02, policy 4430, class rank, second reading and approval. After some discussions and review at the agenda meeting, it was thought if the high school returned to the previous practice of display of ranked order, then the policy would fall within the current prescription. I don't know if I'm missing anything, Nicole.
That was what our.
Well, that and
discussion.
the ranking for academic honors of 3.5 and above for publication in a paper.
I believe it may have changed to 3.7, but I'm not certain. So we're going to request the high school return to the previous practice and leave the policy as is.
Is that clarification then going to be made in the administrative guidelines? Because that's really, that way it doesn't have to come back to the board for policy review. They can follow the guidelines.
So
Limiting our work.
I would entertain a motion and then we can have further discussion.
All motion.
Motion by Brad Walton,
Second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. So any additional comments or questions?
Just another point of clarification. We are, as it stands, we are saying we're going to keep the policy as it was previously. We're going to second read. There's nothing that will change in the policy. All right.
No, the only changes are in implementation of the policy, just, there had been some question in regards to, the rank had always been displayed in the display case, and it hadn't been in the last few years, and so now that's
They
being
put everybody in the display case alphabetically.
alphabetically.
Just so they're-
Yes, and so now we're according to our policy, showing that that'll be in rank order. Does that make sense?
I guess
So there's
so,
not a
other than,
policy change.
yeah, there's,
Yeah.
there, but that doesn't say any,
Yeah, there's no change to the policy.
There's no
change
It'd be it'd be the implementation guidelines.
The interpretation of the policy, I think,
Right.
we're going to clarify with the high school.
Well, we had another discussion about the policy about we really don't have any salutatorians anymore. But we've decided not to change the policy.
It seemed, it affects, every time you make a change can have long ramifications and ripple effects. And I think that the remain mostly status quo seems to be the best course of action.
right, but there's no, I mean, even in the policy, it doesn't, the policy isn't saying we're gonna display things in rank order or anything, right? It just, I mean, all it's stating is that students will be able to see what their rank is.
I think that the comments were that the students had the opportunity to contact their counselor to determine their individual rank.
Mhm.
And that didn't seem quite, I think the idea is the students should, it is a game we've set up to compete, and that they should be able to know who is around them grade point wise without, and the honors hall seems as good a way to do that as we have.
But again, I think for your clarification, we've decided not to make the policy change and the policy more detailed. We recommended that the description of how that policy is enforced is explained in the administrative guidelines. That way, it doesn't have to come back to the board for adjustments to the policy. The administration can adjust their guidelines without our approval.
Yeah.
Is the high school aware of the change?
They will be after tonight.
But they don't know yet.
But there is not.
We have, conversation has indeed been had with high school administration as well as with Mr. Wolpe. And it's understood that trustees are going to and have presented such a proposal. And once it's voted upon, then it will come into fruition. But yes, to answer your question, they definitely privy to go over this.
Mr. Moore, did you have another comment?
Just that it's up to the administration to determine that, right? We are not voting on whether they are going to be displayed in any hallway anywhere.
No.
Yeah,
but the intention.
That's what I was getting at, because the vote is not really going to change.
No, the vote doesn't.
Practice, and so that's why I wanted to know what they were aware of.
I think that the thought was to keep the policy as it is with our intentions known. If there needs to be further clarification or something, we can go down that road, but simpler seemed to be a better solution.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we are not voting to say that they will do that. We're continuing to the policy that says students will be able to determine their rank.
Right. No change. No change to the current policy.
All right. Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on, we have two left. We couldn't bundle these if you'd like. There's no changes that I'm aware of. Item 6.03, policy 4460, graduation requirements, and item 6.04, policy 4460.01, waiver of local course requirements.
I'd like to move that we bundle policy 4460. We approve policy 4460 and 4460.01 to be approved. Well, they are in second reading, are they not?
Oh, they're already.
Yeah. To return to our policy in good standing until we review them again.
Thank you. Motion by Keith Morey,
Second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. All right, moving on to our work session. Item 7.01, working groups. We just kind of wanted to do a brief overview of working group organization and where we're at. Take a little time if that's okay with the board. I'll start, I guess. We currently have 5 working groups. These are superintendent-driven working groups. They are the Facilities Committee, the Finance Committee, the Human Resource Committee, the Marketing Committee, and
Education.
the education.
Kind of important.
The most important one. And so I guess I will take HR, since I think I've been more or less bonded with that one. I think the HR committee was formed or founded as a way to address retention and attraction needs, with also an eye on meeting our diversity, or trying to have a faculty that looks somewhat like their population. And so we've met, we've had a few changes with HR, and so we've not made a ton of progress, but that is the charge for that committee. And we, I think, would like to continue forward as we're able, but I don't know if anybody would like to pick up another committee.
So is that kind of part of this discussion is for people to say, hey, who are on these working groups, are we?
We can. I mean, I don't have the list with me.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking that
Each working group typically has 2 board members, an administrator, and then the rest of the group will flex depending on the subject or, those individuals involved. But Mr. Schleifer.
Well, I was just, I think, we've had some of the committees in place, and I just kind of want to talk more at a higher level right now, more of an umbrella type of. I would like to see some structure to our committees coming from the direction of the members sitting at this table. And in that direction, my thought would be is I think just to have a committee isn't going to do anybody any good. I think the whole intent of the reasons why the concept of a committee came around in the first place is to help, we all admit that we've had a communication problem over the years and it's improving. But part of the intent of creating committees is to improve in the communication flow initially between us and administrators, and then with other members that would need to be added to the groups. But what I vision, and is one of the things that would I think help us the best, is for us to be deliberate and every year revisit the purpose of the individual committees. Because I think we should take a look at what the charges are of the committee at that time. And there may be some committees that will have a short-term charge. We disband that committee and the people that were, outside of the board and administrators, and then create a new charge or a new process. But I think if we are looking at the committee structure and the charges of the committee, and we try to look at it either, for the current year, to kind of plan on what we think we're going to need for the current year. Not that we couldn't include maybe some long-term strategies, But for example, with me being on the facilities and the finance committee, I think it would be a good idea for me to have some kind of expectation of what the charge of the committee that I'm on, what's our purpose? What do we want to know? We could take either one of those subjects, or let's go to education. That's a good one because that's a live one right now. We're finishing an education committee that last year had a charge with what are we going to do with early college because of the accreditation changing with early college. And it was more directed at the high school. Well, I sit on this last education committee, and we really are kind of past that charge now. So I think that committee needs to be rethought and says, what is our charge now? Now, do we want to grow logos? Do we want to supplement the program at the high school from early college to something else? I mean, whatever the direction is, our focus, I think, from that committee has changed. But we've not had a chance to sit down and form that, what I call long-term plan. So I would rather really know what our agenda items are for the coming periods to help us better plan what we're going to have our meetings about. Because none of us need to show up to a meeting with an agenda that we could read. I mean, so there may be some that don't have any reason to meet. There may be some that we need to have 2 or 3 ad hoc committees going on at the same time. I mean, I could think of education as a great example. We could have, and I'm just going to use pre-K because that was an example of a discussion tonight. But we could have an ad hoc committee for pre-K if we had a goal. We could have an ad hoc committee for the hybrid building if that becomes a goal. We could have an ad hoc committee for, but all of those would be short-term goals to fit into our overall long-term goal. Does that make sense? I mean, and then since the primary purpose of that is communication and planning ahead, then we could take a look at, okay, how can the chairperson of that committee communicate with the board members of that committee and sit back and put a plan together for the next year so we know what we're discussing. And we may learn something from both sides and maybe it'll save a lot of time. For finance, it could be something as simple as the budget is an item. The budget is a year-long process. So maybe the finance committee needs to come in earlier in the budget process just to say, because the other part of it is the goal should be to save time for us in a major meeting. So it wouldn't make any sense for any of us to sit in the committee and talk about something for weeks and weeks and weeks, hours and hours and hours, and then we come back to a board meeting and do that same thing all over again. If that's the way we're going to do it, then we might as well not even have committees. So the board also has to learn to trust the members that are on the committee to come back and report out. And then for what interest those members, they can become more involved at that time. So I'm thinking, I just want to put structure to it. I just want to put planning to it. I want to put, I don't need work, just keep me busy. So at a higher level, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
But I think you hit the nail on the head. The committees were in place so that the board could have more in-depth participation in these decision-making process without doing it every other Wednesday night and having, 4-hour meetings that may or may not accomplish something. And I think we've had positive examples of the committee structure working. And we've also had, I would call, failures of the committee structure. And part of that is, I think, to Jeff's point, is what is the structure of them? How do they function? I mean, we have 5 standing ones, and they all flex a little bit, but I think the board has, been doing this for 3 years now,
Well, really,
trying.
for the facilities is really the only one that's had
Can-
in
Well, I gotta ask for a point of clarification, because I remember when I first came on, it was very important, because we have said committee 400 times tonight, and my understanding was that these are not committees.
These are working groups,
Are
yeah.
working groups.
I use
So,
the wrong term. sorry.
I know, I mean, it's hard, and I don't know that it feels like they're interchangeable, but I think it's important that we clarify we're talking about working groups so that we can have some, and help me. I'm kind of just saying my impression of where I believe we are, but the idea was that in these 5 areas that we have identified as having working groups, that we would have some input from the board that would help the other folks that are a part of that decision-making process understand what the vision of the board is. Is that accurate?
That's one piece of it. I think the other piece of it is to help educate all of the board members at the same time. I think that's another piece of it as well.
So Jeff, you mentioned communication, and Keith, what you're talking about is making sure that, as a board, our strategic goals, basically, that we've been working on putting together for over a year now, that is what is being implemented, and that's what's being carried out. And so, and it's also a time saver. So that's one component, and it involves trust. It involves, okay, I trust that Kristen's on the education committee. She's going to represent the goals that we have put forth in our, in our planning sessions. And she's going to represent us in that regard. And she's going to report back, so to speak, save us all a lot of time. So we don't all have to be there, but we know, we're vicariously going there through her. So yeah, those are all different components of what the working group should, those are the functions of the working group.
And I think just to add on to what you talked about as far as reporting back, I think using the resource of having Kim attend those meetings to get the notes out immediately to the other board members is as important.
Right.
Because there's a couple of things that I think we need to be really, really careful of. I don't think it's fair for any one board member to come to a board meeting and have discussion and try to make a decision and half of them be in the dark. That defeats the purpose. If I can't, if I've got an issue that's sensitive to me, or I really have strong feelings about, and I'm not been included in the loop up to the point that we're voting on it that night, I can guarantee you what way I'm going to go. So, regardless of what the direction of those people are. But I think what this is going to do is it's going to force us, done right, to look ahead and not be so under the gun on so many of the decisions that we've had to make in the past. Allow us to be a little bit more futuristic in our thought.
Well, and ideally, we are collaborating with the cabinet members and saying, okay, let's, what do you have on the agenda? Well, we need to add this, and we're helping set the agendas for these working groups and steering the direction. Again, going back to what Keith was talking in regards to making sure that they're aligning with their strategic goals and making sure that we're heading where we want to be heading and not just kind of doing, this sort of meandering.
So that communication starts with the board members that are part of whatever committee that you're on, meeting with the administrator that's part of that committee. We're not trying to do stuff to people, but if we start that meeting now and try to put together that agenda, maybe let those administrators associated or responsible for those committees help us plan ahead, because they would have a better understanding of the things that's coming up a year from now than we would. And I know, for example, we had an education meeting that I sat in on 2 weeks ago, I think. There's 2 weeks ago. Monday it was. They all fall together anymore. But as a group, we've had a conversation that we'd like to grow the enrollment at the Hibbert building. I'm just, this is examples so we know already that we have ideas for Hibbert, and whether it's a STEM building or a STEAM building or whatever it is, that is something that we can set up now that's a specific charge for that group. And we can plan the process, and if we're going to move forward with that, because we have to think far enough ahead that a lot of our decisions or directions or our hopes are going to reallocate personnel or reallocate finances, or, for example, if we decide Hibbert is going to be a STEAM building, then we have to worry about more than just people or students. We have to worry about the facilities. We have to worry about finance. We have to worry about, and I want to be ahead of that. I want that discussion to be parallel as we move forward. So that's my dream.
And I think an important piece of that is when you know an agenda or you have a focus, then people can join that working group who are relevant to those discussions.
Right.
Exactly. So, right. So if we have like key administrators, say that this, whatever you're talking about involves this building, well, the principal of that building should be there, obviously. And then what about like some of the key players as far as teachers, even community members, and being able to invite in those key players and collaborate on the project at hand, and getting different perspectives and just a well-rounded approach to whatever task we're doing. So,
And I think that's why it's important for us to have our charge. Because then we're inviting, we have the core membership is the administration and the board. And then as those charges, as we develop I hate using the word charge, but a process or a theory or whatever, as we develop that, then like you said, if we're going to completely renovate the high school, then we can invite the administrators into those meetings. And they don't have to attend 12 meetings a year or 24 meetings a year.
right.
And only 2 of them have anything to do with them. I mean, we need to be respectful of their time as well. I mean, I can go back to a facilities meeting we had last year. We had invited, it may have been longer than a year now, but we'd invited community members to attend. And what ended up happening is we read off of an agenda that was already published. And there was no new information than what was on the agenda. Now, I know we're trying, and I'm not trying to throw trash at anybody, but matter of fact, I think your husband is even on that. I mean, we invite people that are not part of the school system to donate their time. And, 2 out of the 3 members looked at me and we walked away and said, well, that was a complete waste of my time.
So I have a question. Specifically, facilities meets when and how often?
So that would be something we need to do is set up a schedule.
And that would happen within, at least my thought is, that would happen within, after the administrators and those board members of that committee got together and talked about what was their need. It may be different for every committee.
Because I think the strength, listen, excuse me, everything that's going on is the known continuity of the flow of the working groups themselves. If we know that the education committee meets once a month on such and such a date and such a time, me in particular, it allows me to work around a work schedule and everything else that otherwise might interfere with it, because I know that 3 days before I've got this on the calendar. And it is just as important, the consistent participation of the board, or in my case, of me being present. And then that way, I can either, whether it's with Kim's help or whatever, make a report back to the board, in particular, prior to the next agenda meeting with the executive committee, to say, okay, this committee met, these are the things that were discussed. These are the highlights. These are the things that we did not get to. And this is where we're going to move forward to the next, in the next meeting. That way, and maybe try to align it with our strategic goals too, so that we know that it's not a committee that's just meeting, but it's a committee or a working group that's meeting with a purpose, aligned with our goals and what we really want to accomplish immediately, but more so 2 or 3 years down the line as we stay ahead.
That's exactly what,
Well,
at least I think would be
Yeah,
effective.
you're right, but I wouldn't want to establish, I would want the groups that are involved in that committees then to establish their schedule, so it could be.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it, I wouldn't want to dictate it from but, getting an email or a text at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we need to meet at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, doesn't work.
No, no.
And I just want to be more intentional and I think, I think it'll help everybody, the board members, the administrators, at least it'll focus us to do a little bit more planning.
And Jeff, to that point, let's say working group X meets next Monday afternoon. Okay, get a lot accomplished, but that same working group and those individuals in there cannot meet 4 weeks from then because there may be something else in conflict and all. So at the end of that meeting, okay, let's look at our agendas and find out what is going to be the next established day that we can all come together, get that done so it can come back to the board and everyone. So everybody will know commit or working group X is going to be meeting. We met last Monday. We're going to be meeting in 5 weeks on Thursday afternoon from 4 o'clock until 5 o'clock. Such a place. That's what was determined by the committee, and we're going to stand by that so that everybody knows in case somebody wants to drop in and be a part of it. Instead of just, as you were saying, instead of just on the calendar, it's going to be second Monday of every month for the next 4 months. So,
Well,
Yeah.
it might be nice to have something that is set up as far as, okay, second Monday, but then if it's not needed, we eliminate it. But otherwise, it's like, this is our standing commit or working date. So that you can plan around, so that you're able to be there.
But the charges also may change some of that. I mean, for example, if we want to do something with making Hibbert a STEAM building, which I think there's been a strong consensus that that's what we want to do. If that decision is to move forward doing that, then that charge for that specific task, it may be something that has to be moved up, or we have meetings once a week for a period of 4 weeks or 5 weeks, or because, the next question there would be, would we work towards that for being ready in the fall of this coming year or the fall of next year? So based on the charges of the committee, I just don't want to get us locked in where we're going to have a meeting every 4 weeks or every 5 weeks. There may be some based on the charge that it's compacted in a lot of it together, then we may not have one for 3 months. So, because I really believe we should be meeting for a specific reason.
I agree with everything. I guess at this point, I think we know what board members are assigned to what committees. I would maybe have, Dr. Wright figure out who he wants from the cabinet on those committees. And then once that's done, those board members and that director or cabinet member would meet and talk about what the year looked like and then report back in board reports. So like for HR, I mean, the three of us could meet, decide, since we have short-term HR person, maybe we don't take on any huge task. And so we kind of don't have a very aggressive agenda for the next 6 months.
Well, and if we could have an outline or a conversation, not trying to interrupt, but I'm trying to add to, if we have a board retreat scheduled in 3 months, right? Less than 3 months.
May 7th, I believe.
So if we, at least if we could have outlines and ideas, and then at our board retreat, part of our session could be is all of the charges of these committees fall in line with where we as a board want to go. We may want to tweak that. I mean, that way it follows the way all of us agree, you know. I think there's a couple topics that we're going to have to move on quicker. But
And I mean, some working groups, I mean, like education, for instance, is active now.
right.
And so but I think before, let's say that next retreat, I think it's reasonable that all 5 groups would have met in a board cabinet member level and have some input for the retreat.
Yeah, but I agree with you, but I also think we've almost reached the end of the charge of the education committee as it was based on our last meeting. I think now it almost needs a new charge, a new reason for us to meet. Right now, the only reason why we were meeting was because of early college.
Okay.
So, now I think it's time to end that, and the other people that are not part of that core group probably don't have to attend that one anymore. Because I think that one needs a new charge, which means a new committee.
Well, that's kind of I think.
Of course, I'm not even on that committee, so.
I think for us.
Easy for me to say, right?
I mean, I guess I would, at the right's discretion, we will continue. I mean, I think marketing is scheduled to meet at some point, or going to be rescheduled to meet at some point soon. But to not derail anything, but just, and I hate the add tos because this is an add to, but add to, before our next retreat, we want to have all those board director meetings with the charge identified. That seems reasonable.
Or at least an outline with different, like for example, with the facilities, it could be something as simple as we sit down at a meeting and I'm just using this as an example, it doesn't have to happen, but we started working on a 10-year plan, or a long-term maintenance plan. Maybe part of that facilities is we sit down and we talk about that plan and derive what our next tasks are that's going to happen in this next year or the next 2 years. Maybe we just start a planning document on that. So.
After right, does that seem?
Yep.
Are we in the right ballpark?
Yeah, we definitely as a cabinet, will come together and.
Because the thing that we also have to be careful of is we don't want to micromanage.
No.
And, I'm too busy to micromanage. So. And I think as the trust and organization, as that improves, I would expect the meetings to slow down.
But I mean, I think you're right. The reason they were established, or we tried to have been, is because there's been oftentimes the board seemingly has been behind the curve. And I think this seemed to be the best way to address that, as far as decision making and driving the goals and objectives. But anything else in working groups?
Look, only that I think it's really important that as we continue to do this, we focus on our big strategic goals and not get into the minutia of all of the stuff. That's what the whole cabinet is for. And I agree with you, as we continue to do this, that will, I hope,
Mellow out some.
yeah. Just, I think part of that is, I think you can also look at as well, we establish these to make sure that we are able to drive things and have things go the way we want, because we're behind. I can't remember how you phrased it exactly, but
The curve.
behind the curve. But I think it's also on us to make sure that we stay in front of the curve by making sure that our strategic plans are what's at the front, and saying, how are we meeting these strategic plans? Not, hey, what are you doing next? That's not me accusing anyone. I just think it's important for us to recognize our role is to be up here saying, this is where we want to be. And their role there for them to be able to go, okay, you said you wanted to be here. This is how we think we should get there.
That's why I said we don't want to micromanage.
Right.
Which I think, I mean, the Hibbert building, I think is a perfect example. I think without speaking for the entire board, I think the board in general sees Hibbert as an opportunity to attract students to RCS. And by having programming that will pull students from the county, I think and so I think administration needs to know that that's the charge. Now, how exactly we do that, what program it is, I don't particularly care. I just want a successful, strong program that can achieve the goal of attracting kids to RCS. I think that's what you're asking. I mean, or is that too much in the minutia?
No, I think that's where we want to be. But then I think it's then we have to, like, we talk about trust here, but we also have to have trust that whoever's in charge of that committee knows who else needs to be involved, right? I don't. It's not up to me as a board member to say, well, what about that? I mean, I can ask those. Well, what does so and so think about that? But I think we got to trust the folks that are doing that are doing it well until we're proven otherwise.
I hope that trust would build as the director, the administrator. It could be multiple administrators and the board members as we're doing the conversation and the planning. I'm hoping that trust is earned both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't like being surprised at board meetings. I can't imagine that the administrators enjoy it as well. Those we say no, we don't.
I think that sounds good.
All right. Anything else? All right. Moving on to item 8, board reports and old business. Mr. Moore.
I haven't mentioned anything yet, but as the legislative liaison, I feel like they're in this short session, and it's important to at least briefly mention a couple of bills that have passed through the House. There's House Bill 1072 has passed through the House that requires schools, when they get a referendum or a levy, to automatically requires them to share funds that they have worked pretty hard to get with any charter schools within that district. So does not support public education, in my opinion, and so I would just give all of us the charge to, if you know anyone that is a representative, to let them know how you feel about sharing those, allowing us to do all the work and then sharing those. The other bill is House Bill 1134, which also passed out, which is just, in my opinion, a really bad bill for a wide variety of reasons. It puts a lot more.
Explain what it is.
Yeah, it requires school. It's a variety of things. It requires districts to set up a portal that would show what every class is teaching. It's not. They've made a lot of adjustments as it's grown. So you're now no longer, at one point, teachers were going to have to post all of their lesson plans for the whole year. That's no longer there. Yeah. That part is no longer there, but there are a lot of requirements for all of these things. Like if you wanted to have an assembly, you would have to put onto this porthole everything that you're going to have on this assembly. There are just a lot of things similar to that. We do a lot of things in this district with social emotional learning that are being bunched in here that we may not be able to do if this bill goes through. Anybody that works in schools knows the value of building relationships with students. If you want students to be successful, you got to build those relationships. And I think there are a lot of pieces of this bill that just make that much more difficult to do. There's no, in my opinion, it is not difficult for a parent to figure out what is being taught, what the curriculum is. Do you ever get requests by parents? Yeah. And those requests are met fairly quickly, correct? Right. So there are all of the things that this bill tries to correct, quote unquote, are already in place and are available. So House Bill 1134 is another one that I would encourage all of you to look into a little more deeply. I can share some resources, places you can find the summary on in.gov as well. And I will tell you, it's not easily understandable, but it's also a lot of additional hoops that school districts across the state are going to have to jump through, and adds a whole nother layer of complexity to what is already a very challenging task. So please reach out to your representatives and let them know, if you would.
And I would just add, I think the bill is targeted as, I don't know, parental bill of rights or something. I mean, we have all sorts of ways for parents to be involved. I mean, we have our open meetings. That's not a great way, but obviously we get emails almost every day from parents. We have parent teacher conferences. I don't know a single principal that refuses to take a parent's call. I mean, parents, if they're a little proactive, have access to everything they could possibly want, I believe. And I would encourage them, and I think they do take the opportunities.
The legislatures are trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I mean, that's the problem. That's the whole problem. Is they think there's something wrong and there's not. When we have all these avenues for parents and students and everybody who's invested in their students' education to get all the information they need, it's there. There's no reason to even have this on the assembly floor. And that's what it comes down to, is they're trying to create a problem that doesn't exist.
So, yeah.
No, they're trying to create one right now.
No, they are.
That's what they're doing.
They're going to
create what they're going to do is they're going to create a problem of teachers leaving the.
Well, and I think that's the other big concern, as we've just talked about HR. It's not an easy task to hire and keep good teachers now. It's a challenge that every district is facing. And as a district that's right on the border with another state, I fear that if these sorts of bills continue to advance, that challenge is going to become even greater.
Anything else for old business board reports? All right.
President Weber, trustees, with regard to the agenda item 9, preview of upcoming meetings and events. Our next board meeting will be Wednesday, February 23rd, 2 weeks from today. Just as has been referenced in, as Attorney Cross mentioned, as far as a preview of that particular meeting, we definitely will continue to exercise such examples and exercises of civics, and so in conducting business on account of the school system. With agenda item 10, the meetings and events that are occurring within the school system, I ask that Bridget Hazelbaker, our wonderful communications coordinator, the podium with more information about the amazing things going on within our school.
You can stand in the middle if you want, Bruce. No, you don't. Like you want to be on
Give you a
camera.
little trophy.
Yeah.
All right, so I have just a few things just to celebrate. RHS art teacher and RHS alum India Cruz Griffin has been selected as one of the 20 artists to complete artwork for the Field House of the Future at the Gamebridge Field House, which used to be the Market Square, and the Bankers Life. Yeah, thank you, Bankers Life. The home of the NBA Indiana Pacers and the WNBA's Indiana Fever. We also had 17 RCS orchestra students attend the annual ISMA solo and ensemble contest, and every single student earned a gold rating on their solos. Special thanks to the RCS ESE workers and water maintenance workers for clearing all of last week's snow from parking lots and sidewalks. And then we also celebrated some teacher red devils at the January 28th basketball game. Melanie Lefuse from Charles, Sophia Harris from Crestdale, Raylan Brandon from Fairview, Toy Waldridge from Star, Lucas Skinner from Vale, Braxton Jones from Westview, and Atticus Creech from Hibbert. And as far as upcoming events, tomorrow night we have our 8th grade parent information night at Civic Hall at 6 o'clock for rising 9th grade students. RHS senior wrestler Jacob Necessary will be competing at semi-state this Saturday at Newcastle High School. And then some of our Richmond High School juniors and seniors will be attending the Chamber of Commerce Career Exploration Fair at the Wayne County Fairgrounds next week. And of course, there's no school on Monday, February 21st, in observance of President's Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hazelbaker. As for the bell ringer, as Mrs. Hazelbaker referenced, I just simply wanted to extend our gratitude to our classified staff members, the transportation departments. Having one of our very own bus drivers arrive this evening to represent and advocate and speak on behalf of all bus drivers when it comes to safety and security, especially within the pandemic. I think she exercises a sense of courage in doing so, and the haste at which she came in this evening, I commend her as well as all of our bus drivers for their selfless service. And as we know, where many cities around the country and towns around it, even state, are incorporating the National Guard to drive school buses because there's such a shortage. Our transportation line and vendor Sorrow has made it so that we do not have to exercise those type of options. And so for our bus drivers, our food service members and team staff doing a phenomenal job of making sure that our students do not go without when it comes to nutrition. Buildings and grounds, as Mrs. Hazelbaker mentioned, and in one of my previous roles, a lot of nearly everyone really does not understand what it takes to remove such snow from parking lots and sidewalks, and what it takes to make sure that pipes are not bursting in a large facility, and that the heat and all the things that people take for granted are still in motion. And so for our buildings and grounds crews and the leadership in these particular areas, our custodians did a tremendous job of making sure that everything is where it needs to be. And then, of course, our immaculate secretarial teams around the district just continue to perform at a high clip. And naturally, as they work their magic, then our faculty, staff, administrators, and others can work theirs. And so we definitely are sincerely appreciative of them all.
Saw on social media, you were out clearing some windshields for some of our staff.
I tell you, it's interesting, as you can imagine, and as you know, growing up, being a middle child, you grabbed the shovel, you jumped in, and you got to work. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it, as my father would say. And more importantly, as we all know, as is an old cliche, but teamwork makes the dream work. So.
All right. Anything?
Well, I'm sorry. I want to add this, and follow-up from our last board meeting, we had the bowling team.
Yes.
And just to announce that they did play second in the state last Saturday. So
Yes.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yep. That's great.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Meeting adjourned.